The void shimmered like oil over glass when the ISS Halcyon broke through slipspace. Its hull rippled with residual plasma, glowing faintly against the dying light of a red dwarf sun. In the command deck's dim glow, the crew watched a distant sphere turn slowly in the dark Urethra 9, a planet wrapped in veils of silver mist and cathedral-like mountain spires. Dr. Elena Ward, chief xenolinguist for the Terran Concord, leaned forward against the viewing rail. She had seen hundreds of worlds, but none like this. Something about it hummed inside her bones, a resonance that wasn't sound but memory, ancient and wordless. Captain Marcus Hale stood beside her, arms folded, eyes tracing the planet's spectral horizon. "Coordinates match the transmission," he said. "Local priests claim they received a message from the voices of the first dawn." He looked at her. "Whatever that means, that's your department." Elena nodded, her throat dry. "It's supposed to be the oldest recorded tongue in the galaxy. Dead for over 30,000 years. Even their own kind can't pronounce it anymore." "Until now," Marcus murmured. The descent was slow and ceremonial. Urethra 9's atmosphere was thick with silver particulates that turned light into shifting halos. As the shuttle broke through, massive structures emerged below, monoliths of black stone carved with spiraling runes, rising from the plains like the spines of a buried god. Waiting at the landing site were the Sathari, the galaxy's oldest known civilization, a species of tall, bioluminescent beings whose translucent skin shimmered with threads of light. Their eyes, featureless and luminous, reflected nothing but eternity. At their center stood the high priest of the ecliptic temple, his staff crowned with a sphere of crystal that pulsed in rhythm with the planet's heart. Elena stepped forward as the ramp lowered. The air was electric, laced with incense and static. The high priest extended his staff, his voice deep and resonant, like stone grinding against stone. "Children of the outer flame," he intoned in the trade cant, the common tongue of the stars, "you trespass upon sacred soil. Speak your purpose." Marcus bowed slightly. "We come in peace. We answered the call your order transmitted across the sectors. We seek knowledge, not conflict." The priest's gaze shifted to Elena. "And you, speaker of tongues, what do you seek?" She hesitated. "Understanding." He tilted his head, the motion alien and fluid. "Understanding is the path to ruin, unless one first understands themselves." Then he turned and motioned for them to follow. The temple of the first dawn rose out of the ground itself, a living structure of stone and energy veins that pulsed faintly underfoot. Inside, the air vibrated with faint harmonics, as if the walls remembered songs long forgotten. The Sathari priests lined the corridors, chanting in tones that twisted between sound and light. They reached a central chamber, vast as an ocean cavern. At its center stood a monolith of obsidian etched with glowing glyphs, millions of them, each pulsing faintly like a heartbeat. The high priest turned to Elena. "This is the script of the origin. No tongue of the living may read it. To speak its words is blasphemy." Elena's breath caught. The glyphs, though alien, felt familiar. They resonated with something deep in her subconscious, like fragments of a dream she had never woken from. "May I approach?" she asked. The priest hesitated, then inclined his head. "Approach, but do not speak." She walked forward, every step echoing like a drumbeat in her chest. The symbols flickered brighter as she neared, as if recognizing her. She raised a hand, tracing one of the sigils. And then, without warning, her lips moved. A sound emerged, a word not formed by her conscious thought, but rising from within her as naturally as breathing. It was deep, melodic, and older than the stars themselves. The chamber trembled. The air grew heavy. The priests froze. The high priest's staff slipped from his trembling hands and clattered to the stone floor. His luminous eyes widened in horror. "You," he whispered. "You speak the first voice." Elena staggered back, clutching her head. The sound of her own voice echoed endlessly in her mind, rippling through layers of memory that weren't hers, cities of light, beings of fire, a great silence consuming everything. The high priest dropped to one knee, his body shaking. "Heretic," he breathed. "The tongue of gods and monsters, no mortal may utter it. You defile the sacred breath." Marcus stepped forward, hand on his sidearm. Hey, back off. The chamber erupted in low, resonant tones, the Sadhari priests chanting frantically, their voices weaving into a thunderous storm. Energy flared from the walls. Elena screamed as visions flooded her mind, thousands of voices crying in the same language, pleading, commanding, dying. She fell to her knees, the symbols on the monolith now burning with blinding light. Marcus reached for her, but an invisible force threw him back. The high priest lifted his hands, shouting something to the others. The glyphs dimmed. The air stilled. Elena lay trembling on the floor, gasping for air. The room smelled of ozone and blood. The high priest approached slowly, his staff trembling as he reclaimed it. His voice was low, almost reverent. The prophecy was true. The children of the Ashen Star would return, carrying the forbidden tongue. He looked down at her with something between awe and terror. You are not merely human, he said. You are the echo of what we buried. Silence hung over the chamber long after the light faded from the monolith. The air still trembled with the ghost of that ancient sound, Elena's voice, impossibly human, speaking a language that no living being should remember. When Elena finally rose, her breath came in ragged bursts. Her reflection wavered across the polished obsidian floor, eyes dilated, veins faintly glowing with a soft amber hue that wasn't there before. Marcus Hale steadied her, his jaw tight. You all right? She nodded weakly. I didn't mean to. The words, they just came. The high priest's staff struck the floor once. The echo rolled through the temple like thunder. No being accidentally speaks the voice of the origin, he said. That tongue is locked beyond all memory. You have awakened something long sealed. Marcus took a step forward. She didn't awaken anything. She's a linguist, not some prophet. We came to investigate a signal, not whatever this is. The priest's luminous gaze shifted toward him. Your understanding is smaller than your courage, human. The voice she spoke belonged to the gods who forged the first suns. Their return marks the unraveling of the covenant. Elena's voice trembled. What covenant? He studied her, almost pitying. The pact that bound creation after the fall of the first flame. It is the reason this galaxy still exists. Outside the temple, the air had grown restless. The twin moons of Urethra 9 hung blood-red, and the plains beyond shimmered with strange auroras that had not graced the sky in millennia. The Sadhari priests murmured among themselves, fear-laced with reverence. They did not know whether to worship or destroy her. The humans were confined to the guest sanctum, a vast stone chamber lit by veins of pale light. Alien script wound across the walls like ivy, whispering faintly as if alive. Marcus paced the room, every step echoing frustration. They're keeping us under guard. This whole planet's a shrine to something we don't even understand. Elena sat on the floor, head in her hands. The hum of the temple resonated inside her skull. She could hear it now, the voice, faint and rhythmic, whispering behind her thoughts. It wasn't language, not exactly. It was meaning itself, pure and raw, without translation. Elena, Marcus said, kneeling beside her. Talk to me. What's going on in your head? She looked up, eyes glistening. It's like, they're calling me home. Before he could answer, the chamber door opened with a hiss. Two Sadhari guards stepped aside as the high priest entered, his robes gleaming with embedded starlight. You are bound by law to remain within this sanctum, he said, voice deep and solemn. The council convenes at dawn to decide your fate. Marcus crossed his arms. We're diplomats under the Concord. Any harm to us is an act of war. The priest's gaze flicked to him, then back to Elena. You misunderstand, Captain. We fear not war. We fear remembrance. Elena rose slowly. What do you mean? The high priest hesitated, the first sign of uncertainty she had seen in him. Before the Sadhari became keepers of the faith, we were slaves to the beings who spoke the tongue you uttered today. They shaped us from dust and light. When they vanished, they left only ruin and silence. We built temples to forget them. He stepped closer, lowering his voice. And now you arrive, wearing their voice as if it were your own. Elena's skin prickled. You think I'm one of them? I think you are the echo of their sin. He turned to leave, but paused in the doorway. The council will decide whether the echo must be silenced. That night, sleep refused to come. Elena sat beside the wall of whispering glyphs, tracing their patterns. The symbols pulsed faintly in response to her touch. The whispers grew louder, a woman's voice, soft and mournful, singing in the same ancient tongue. She didn't understand the words, yet their meaning unfurled in her mind like a vision. A vast hall of crystal light. 1,000 beings kneeling before a radiant figure, a human. The same amber glow that now traced her veins burned in the figure's eyes. She saw the Sathari, young and terrified, as these humans spoke the language that shaped worlds and shattered stars. And then, fire. Entire systems burning, God screaming as reality fractured under the weight of their own words. She gasped, clutching her temples as the vision shattered. Marcus was beside her instantly. Elena! What did you see? She stared at him, her voice barely a whisper. Humans! We were here before, Marcus. We were their gods. The dawn came crimson and stormlit. The council of the ecliptic gathered within the high spire overlooking the valley. Dozens of Sathari elders encircled the chamber, their staffs glowing with inner light. The humans were brought before them under guard. Elena's pulse pounded in her ears. She could feel something building in the air, a vibration that made her bones hum. The high priest raised his staff. Elena, ward of Terra, he declared, you have spoken the forbidden tongue. The covenant forbids any mortal vessel from uttering the voice. The penalty is dissolution. Marcus stepped forward. You can't be serious. Silence, the priest thundered. You stand before the echoes of gods. Do not pretend to command them. Elena met his gaze. If the voice is so dangerous, why summon us here? Why send the signal? Murmurs rippled through the council. The high priest's expression flickered with unease. Because the voice has been whispering again, through the walls, through the stars themselves. We believed it to be a test from the first flame. And now, she pressed. He hesitated. Now I believe it is a warning. Lightning flashed outside, bathing the temple in silver light. Elena felt a tremor beneath her feet, deep, seismic, ancient. The monoliths across the plains began to glow, one by one, as though answering a forgotten command. The priests broke into panicked chants. The high priest raised his staff, shouting for calm. But the light only grew brighter. Elena fell to her knees, clutching her chest. The same amber glow blazed through her veins. The voice inside her roared to life, not a whisper this time, but a summons. Marcus, she gasped. They're not just memories. They're signals. The monoliths outside synchronized into a blinding pulse. The planet's crust split with a sound like shattering glass. From the rift below the temple, something vast stirred, a presence that filled the air with impossible gravity. The high priest turned to her in terror. What have you called forth, heretic? Elena's voice came in a whisper not entirely her own. Not what, who? The ceiling cracked, sending debris tumbling. The energy flared so brightly the guards shielded their eyes. Marcus grabbed her arm, shouting over the chaos. Elena, we need to go now. But she didn't move. She looked skyward as if seeing through the storm itself. They're coming back. And for the first time in 30,000 years, the voice of the origin echoed once more across the stars. The temple shook like a living thing. Shards of obsidian rained from the ceiling, sparks of alien light cascading through the crimson haze. Every glyph in the chamber burned with amber fire, vibrating in unison with Elena's heartbeat. The air was alive, not air anymore, but energy. The ground trembled with the weight of something immense awakening below, something that had waited through ages for this precise moment. The high priest stood frozen, staff quivering in his grasp. The seal is broken, he whispered. The first flame awakens. Marcus Hale dragged Elena toward the exit, but her feet faltered as visions poured through her, waves of memory that weren't hers, yet felt more real than her own heartbeat. Cities of crystal oceans, towers reaching into nebulae, voices that spoke creation into being. Humanity had been here, once, before history had names. And they had destroyed everything. Marcus, she breathed, her eyes glowing like molten gold. They sealed it beneath the planet. Not a god. A weapon. They burst into the open air as the plains of Urethra 9 convulsed. The monoliths rose from the ground like teeth, forming a massive ring across the horizon. Beams of energy lanced skyward, converging into a storm that tore the clouds apart. Above them, a shape began to form, not physical, but pure geometry, lines of light folding through dimensions the eye could barely grasp. The voice echoed again, filling the heavens. Every Sadhari dropped to their knees. Some wept. Others screamed. Marcus stared upward in horror. What the hell is that? The origin construct, Elena said, the words spilling from her lips as if she were reading them from the air itself. It's an ark, a failsafe built by the first humans. A reset engine. The high priest stumbled out behind them, robes whipping in the storm. The flame consumes all impurity. It will cleanse the stars, as it once did. Elena turned to him, her voice rising. You don't understand. It's not divine judgment. It's a protocol. When the First Empire fell, they tried to erase themselves, wipe out every trace of their language, their technology, their existence. The voice wasn't worship. It was a command code. The priest's eyes blazed. Lies. She stepped closer, shouting above the wind. Then why does it answer only to me? Lightning split the sky. The construct descended, a colossal sphere of interlocking rings, humming with power older than time. Every beam of light converged upon Elena. The ground beneath her feet cracked, revealing the glowing lattice of machinery buried deep within the planet. Marcus reached for her arm. Elena, you have to stop this. I can't, she whispered. It's listening. She closed her eyes. The voice filled her completely now, drowning every other sound. 1,000 memories flooded through her, the last days of the First Empire, their desperate choice to erase their legacy before it destroyed the galaxy. She saw their faces, human and godlike, as they spoke the final command to seal the construct away. We are not fit to create. And now, she had undone their silence. The high priest fell to his knees. Heretic or savior, it makes no difference. You will end us all. Elena's voice echoed with an otherworldly resonance. No. I will finish what they started. She raised her hands, and the construct responded, the storm quieting, the blinding light narrowing into a single column around her. The ground steadied, as if holding its breath. Marcus stumbled backward, shielding his eyes. Elena! What are you doing? Her expression softened, serene, almost sorrowful. They tried to erase everything. But maybe the answer isn't forgetting. Maybe it's remembering who we were, so we don't become this again. The symbols along her skin blazed brighter, until her whole body shone like a star. She looked at Marcus one last time, tears streaming through the golden light. Tell them, she said, voice trembling. We weren't gods. We were just afraid. And with that, she spoke the final phrase of the ancient tongue, the true first voice, the word that meant end and beginning in one breath. The world exploded into silence. Light consumed the plains, spreading outward like dawn breaking over eternity. The monoliths melted into streams of silver. The construct collapsed inward, folding through itself, its geometry unraveling into particles of light. The storm cleared, leaving a stillness so profound it made the universe seem to pause. When Marcus opened his eyes, the temple was gone. The high priest lay collapsed on the ground, trembling. The sky above was calm and blue for the first time in recorded history. Elena, he whispered. There was no trace of her. Only a faint shimmer in the air, like heat on desert sand, and a single glowing sigil burned into the ground where she had stood. The priest crawled toward it, eyes wide. She spoke the final word. The covenant is rewritten. Marcus knelt beside the mark. What does it mean? The alien's gaze met his, a mix of awe and grief. It means she has taken the first flame within herself. The cycle of forgetting is broken. Marcus stared at the horizon, where the ruins of the temple had been. The silence was not empty now, it was full of something vast and calm. She saved you, he said quietly. She saved all of us. The priest bowed his head. Perhaps. But the gods always leave their echoes. Weeks later, aboard the Halcyon, Marcus stood at the observation deck, watching Urethra 9 spin below. The surface had transformed oceans of light flowing through its veins, like a living world reborn. A low hum filled the ship's systems, an energy signature they couldn't identify. The engineers called it interference. Marcus knew better. He could still hear her voice, sometimes faint, almost imperceptible, humming through the static between stars. The same phrase she had spoken before the end. Remember what we were. He smiled sadly, staring into the void where she had vanished. The universe was quiet now, but not empty. Somewhere, across the endless dark, the ancient language lived again, not as a weapon, but as a promise. In a forgotten corner of the galaxy, an uncharted moon awoke. Across its barren plains, symbols began to etch themselves into the dust, glowing lines that pulsed in time with a heartbeat that wasn't human. From the horizon, a voice whispered in the wind. Soft. Familiar. Eternal. And in the language of the dead, it spoke one word. Home.